what is in Miami for Marlins fans to be optimistic about? I mean, honestly. But anyways, we are back. 30 teams in 30 days. Team number 29 out of 30. Let us commence. So, the new players on their roster: Sergio Romo, 1 year, $2.5 million contract stolen from their state rivals, the Tampa Bay Rays. Then they got Jorge Alfaro from Philadelphia via trade. And then they also signed Curtis Granderson away from Milwaukee, 1 year, $1.75 million, also played for Toronto last year. And then they brought in Neil Walker at a year and $2 million from the Yankees. In terms of their losses, JT Realmuto in that trade, that brought them back Jorge Alfaro, and Derek Dietrich just not brought back. And there were no unrestricted free agent re-signings, so nothing to put there. And now with the roster and personnel portion of this team, their lineup is comprised of a few hitters. I mean, Brian Anderson is probably their best hitter. Curtis Granderson can maybe hit a few home runs this season. Starlin Castro can get some hits, not really good at getting on base as much. And as for their rest, there isn't much. Lewis Brinson looking like a bust. He looked like a bust from the get-go, and he still looks like a bust. JT Riddle has pretty much been injured and hasn't shown much at the plate. Alfaro, defensive catcher, can maybe provide something, but it'll be pretty difficult in a lineup with not much protection. And Peter O'Brien, good in a small sample size, not much otherwise. And Neil Walker, just an extra depth piece. And so their lineup grade gets a C- from me because there are a couple of pieces. It's not terrible, but also not that good. And then from their bench, they have Chad Wallach, hasn't shown anything. Prado, terrible contract, will be coming to an end. He's been injured, but still hasn't lived up to that contract. Miguel Rojas, solid extra glove. And Austin Dean, he may go through some struggles in his first full season. I mean, he's not really going to get repeated starts unless some things change, because we're still in February, so things can change. And then with their key minor leaguers, Garrett Cooper, maybe an occasional home run hitter off the bench if he comes up for a guy that's injured. Pedro Alvarez, pretty much left-handed Garrett Cooper. Isan Diaz hasn't shown much. Magneuris Sierra, not very good last year. And Rosel Herrera is probably just going to be an extra fielder for them. So overall, their depth gets a D+. Now in terms of the rotation, they have Jose Urena, who's probably their best pitcher on the team, and still not that good. So, not much going for them there. Wei Yin Chen only has 2 to 3 years left on that terrible contract. Dan Straley, I mean, all I have to ask is this: how does that Luis Castillo trade look now? Doesn't even combine with Trevor Richards not having a good rookie season and being a middle of the rotation type of pitcher for a team like this. That's not very good. And Pablo Lopez maybe could have a good season. At least Baseball Reference expects him to have a good season, but I'm not sure on him. So grade gets a D. In terms of their minor leaguer, Sandy Alcantara, overperformed his FIP in his few starts last season. And Eliezer Hernandez wasn't very good last year. D- grade in terms of their depth, which I count the back end of the rotation at 4 through 5, and some of their extra minor leaguers as pitching depth. And then with their bullpen, Drew Steckenrider had a sophomore slump year, and he also got more appearances last year. Eddie projects to be okay. I mean, not great for a bullpen pitcher. And Sergio Romo comes in. It seems like the league has figured out why he was so dominant, and he hasn't been as dominant since. He had a good stretch when he was traded to Tampa Bay in 2017, but last year, not that good. And then there was also Adam Conley, only a couple of decent seasons, nothing too good lately though. And otherwise, not much in the bullpen, a couple of Rule 5 draft picks, at least one is looking to slot in a bullpen role and maybe be somewhat okay, but still not that good. So, not much there. And overall, I give it a C- because Drew Steckenrider can probably be something. But otherwise, it's not good. Key minor leaguers, Tyler Kinley, can't get too much of a read on him, but he did underperform his FIP mightily in a small sample size. So, not very... Well, actually, he could provide to be something, but there have to be some things to go right, I guess. And then RJ Alvarez, he hasn't done much when he's gotten big opportunities, so overall, bullpen depth D-. And now the coaching staff. Don Mattingly is the skipper. He led the Dodgers to underachieving, and he hasn't really done much to help the Marlins entirely, so C-. Granted, he didn't have the greatest crop of talent last year, and that puts it very lightly, but even when they had a good hitting core, I mean, they did have bad pitching, and really the fact that he hasn't been given much of an opportunity to really be excellent, I mean, outside of when he was with the Dodgers, it's the only reason why he gets a C- and nothing lower than that. In terms of their hitting coach, Mike Pagliarulo, I'm pretty sure, he has been decent, nothing spectacular though. He did have an excellent hitting core, and he hasn't really done too much to make their hitting core that bad, so C+, maybe a little bit generous. And then there's Mel Stottlemyre Jr. for their pitching coach. Didn't do much good in Seattle, but also didn't do much bad, so grade of a C. We'll see how he does here in Miami, or there in Miami. And there's Dean Triner. He ruined that bullpen, so he gets an F for me. Overall, unimpressive roster, unimpressive coaching staff, a little bit better than the previous team that I talked about, but still, nothing game-breaking. And now for the schedule breakdown. Of course, they face every NL East team 19 times a year, and for all of their NL East opponents, they face each 9 times at home and 10 times in their stadiums. In terms of the rest of the NL, they do face the Cubs and Reds 3 times at home, 4 times on the road. Same goes for against the Cardinals, against the Brewers, Diamondbacks, and Rockies. They face those teams 4 times at home and 3 times on the road. And for the rest, they face each team 6 times, 3 at home, 3 on the road. In terms of interleague play, they do face Tampa Bay, as always, for twice at home and twice on the road. And then Cleveland, twice at home, twice on the road as well. And then for the rest, they have the White Sox and Tigers in their opposing stadiums. And then they host the Royals and Twins 3 times apiece for a series apiece. Since they're in the NL East, it'll always be difficult. And since they're in the NL, it'll always be more difficult than in the AL. So a lot has to go right for them to do anything this year. And now it's time for record predictions. For Bleacher Reports, they have the Marlins going 55 and 107, very low. And then with RotoChamp, they have the Marlins going 65 and 97. And then with Fangraphs, 66-96. Pacoda, 1 win above Fangraphs, 67-95. The over-under is 65.5 wins. My prediction, 54 and 108. So, very similar to Bleacher Report, which is a bit surprising because, of course, Bleacher Report, not known for the best posts out there, the best sports posts anyways. So, I just think that this team, combined with their difficult schedule and their unimpressive roster, they're going to struggle. Not even just because of the fact that I think their roster is that unimpressive, or at least I feel like they could make some form of strides this year, but in general, just way too tough of a schedule for me to trust them against the competition that they face. So, as a whole, I think the Marlins are going to be pretty bad once again, and they're going to continue to reap the consequences of owners that don't have the capital to finance a team and the depth, and it'll be another rough season. So, for any of you Marlins fans that are left and didn't want to leave the team because, I mean, I don't know, I understand loyalty, I'm a Raider fan, but still, it's a rough team, rough situation, and that is putting it very lightly. And so, as always, my Twitter will be on the screen somewhere, and that'll do it for this video, and in before this video ages poorly in a couple of months.